Hello, everybody. I decided to go live tonight for no real reason. I just wanted to talk because I have nothing else to watch. The Netflix shows I was doing, Dubai Bling and Wags to Riches are over, and Love is Blind doesn't start till Valentine's Day. So we're going to talk wrestling tonight because there is some wrestling to talk about. And I think I'm going to talk about it more often on this channel. Even though I used to have a separate wrestling channel, it's too hard to keep up with two YouTubes. Sure, the algorithm might get messed up, but it is what it is. But I am going to talk the Traitors a little later because we do need to discuss Danielle. A lot of my audience on this channel is a Big Brother audience, and a lot of people have been shitting on Danielle's gameplay, including me early on. I talked about it a bit last week. We're going to talk about it more later where Danielle is concerned and her game. But let's start with wrestling tonight. The Royal Rumble happened over the weekend, and there's backlash from wrestling fans, which is no surprise. We're all very fickle as a wrestling audience. The booking, there's a lot of dislikes on the videos on YouTube of Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, of Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble, making people question if Triple H made a mistake by booking both of them to win the Royal Rumble. And my take is more of a mistake with one than the other. But let's discuss Jey Uso first. I feel like from what I've seen from a lot of the wrestling fans is they don't want Jey Uso in a main event, which we'll get to that too, because of his wrestling style. He doesn't have enough moves. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend like his match against his brother last year at WrestleMania was great, if even good. It was one of the lesser matches of the event for me as well. I will agree with that. But Jey is over with the audience, and more importantly, he's selling that merch, and I think that is a good reason to put him in this spot. But an even better reason for me, because I always like to look at the stories and the storylines going on over time. You go back to the early Bloodline story, and Jey was such a big part of that story. And it was a lot to put Roman in that position where Jey had to lose to Roman a lot early on in that story. And I feel like he's finally getting that main event Jey Uso push that he earned. I think he did earn that spot. So I understand Triple H wanting to put Jey in that spot. So anybody upset with the whole, well, Jey shouldn't be in a world title match because of his moveset, I can't agree with that. If that was the case, maybe AEW is for you. You could turn on AEW and see that's mostly what they care about is moves and matches, but it doesn't sell and nobody's going to the event. AEW is going to be all around here in LA in late February to March. And I'm like, the tickets are cheap. Should I go? And then I put on an AEW TV show and it's like, what would I care to watch? Because they don't book anything good. But this booking for Jey Uso in WWE as well, it is lacking something. I think him going up against Gunther when he just went up against Gunther like a week ago and lost, I guess I get the story they're trying to build. It's similar to a story that Gunther was in last year, though, with Sami Zayn, where Gunther is like this big dog that an underdog has to try and defeat. Jey Uso is the underdog here. But if they're trying to make Jey live up to his main event Jey Uso moniker that they gave him, that is his nickname, the problem I still have overall, like if this is going to be the story, he's going to take on Gunther to become main event Jey Uso, finally live up to the name. He's not going to be in the main event of night 1 or night 2, if that's the match. If it's Jey Uso versus Gunther, I don't see that main eventing night 1 or night 2. So how can you still call him main event Jey Uso? Yeah, that's where the booking loses me with Triple H. And a lot of his booking lately has lost me a lot. Um I still think though, like I'm glad that the Royal Rumble, at least one of the Royal Rumble matches, was not predictable. The women's was extremely predictable. Uh, I thought all along that Charlotte was going to win, and by the end, when there's like 5, 4, 3 people left, it was pretty damn obvious she was going to win, which always takes me out of the end of the match. If you're going to book a Rumble that way, at least put somebody at the end that potentially has a shot to win. That's why during the men's Royal Rumble, a lot of us were thinking, oh, well, this is Cena. This is the other obvious choice. He's going to win. But they did the right thing and gave us a swerve and actually put over someone that is over and is selling merch. So I do understand that aspect. I just don't know if the story for Jey and Gunther is going to be there. On the other side of the coin, I see a lot of people online. There's the people, the wrestling fans that are dogging on this decision to put Jey in the title match at WrestleMania and make him win the Royal Rumble. But then there's the people that are like, hey, they didn't do this with LA Knight when he was hot, so they might as well do it with Jey Uso when he's hot. And I can agree with that. But then fans, you go too low, you go too far. I see people saying like LA Knight and Jey Uso can be the new Batista and Cena. Let's not. Like Batista was older at the time in the mid 2000s, late 2000s. He was in his mid to late 30s. But Cena was in his late 20s to early 30s. LA Knight's in his 40s. Jey Uso's about to be 40. It's a big difference. I don't see them as like your mainstay stars, but I do think they deserve their moment. And I think this is Jay's moment. And he did earn it with being like an anchor of the Bloodline story. And LA Knight, I like LA Knight. Did they kind of miss that moment for him? Most likely, but stories can still be there. Although I am losing faith in Triple H's booking, which brings me to the Women's Royal Rumble and Charlotte Flair winning. And take away the fact that it was obvious. My biggest issue is the follow-up on Raw last night, where she comes out as a babyface and immediately the crowd's not having it, and immediately it kind of ruins her whole promo. I don't understand why Charlotte always is just forced. Everything with Charlotte has been forced upon us. And now she can't be a babyface, even though she had this triumphant return from injury. Nobody cared and they wanted to boo her. So now she's going to be in this tweener spot that a lot of the roster is in. They are in this tweener spot when we are kind of desperate for some good heels around here. I think eventually the story with her and Tiffany, she will be the heel in the story, and Tiffany will be able to become kind of a mega babyface. Hopefully, that's the hope anyway. But for me, Charlotte winning just shows the big issue that I at least have, and I think a lot of people have, with the booking for the women overall under Triple H. The attention to detail is just not there most of the time. They do not get the time. They do not get the in-depth storyline that sometimes happens with the men. Like you see that with Kevin Owens and Cody. You see that with anything bloodline related over the past several years. You saw that with the Judgment Day for a while. Yes, we had Liv and Rhea in their story for a while, but that petered out. They're setting up stuff with who ran over or who hurt Jade. And then we have a little bit with Tiffany, but I still don't think the attention to detail is there with the women like it is with the men. And I feel like it is always ruining potential with the women. And I just saw something about Bayley talking about how this is the time to have another all women's PLE. I agree the roster's there, But is the time going to be there from Triple H to actually build enough stories for the women? We only seem to get like one or two storyline builds for the women at a time. And if a title's not involved, you're probably not going to have a storyline as a woman. I want to see more storylines for women. And Charlotte winning really took that opportunity away to see more storylines for women, because Charlotte's going to get all this screen time now. She's going to go out there and botch promos like she did last night on Raw. And yeah, she is a better promo as a heel. So hopefully this transition from tweener to heel does not take forever. But I fear that Triple H's booking can move slow sometimes, and we are still 2 months away from WrestleMania. So if she's still in this tweener spot, you might as well just turn her heel sooner rather than later, because the crowds, I don't think, like her. The crowds don't care about her triumphant return from injury. So my hope after this WrestleMania is maybe, just maybe, we'll finally get more storylines for women that the titles don't have to be involved in for them to actually have a story. And at first I felt like, until Raw last night, another thing that bothered me with the fans, they were so upset about Jey Uso winning the Rumble, but I felt like there was all this defending, at least on X, Twitter, about Charlotte and how she's the GOAT and how, she returned from injury. She deserved to win the Royal Rumble. Is Charlotte the GOAT just because she's won all these titles, because they forced her to win all these titles early on in her career on the main roster to make her seem like her father? I don't like when the company tries to say she's the GOAT, Cena's the GOAT. It's just them pushing that onto us, but I don't agree with it. I think that was all my main points for the wrestling. Let's move on to the Traitors and Danielle's game. I talked about this a little bit on my last Traitors video last week, how I finally got around to watching the... Hello, Danielle. Oh, you're so welcome. About Days. I hope you enjoy that playlist about Days. I don't want to talk about Days too much because it's going to make me sad. So I'm going to try and refrain from that. I'm a very emotional Pisces. But yes, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. I've known him for 15 years, which is crazy to me that I've known him for 15 years now because of a message board. But yes, I hope you enjoy that playlist, Danielle. Speaking of Danielle's, though, Danielle on the Traitors was... Well, we're seeing videos about everybody being eliminated from the game, and how they are not suspecting that Danielle was a traitor. And we've all sat here, all of us Traitor fans have sat around saying, Danielle's playing this bad game. I've seen people trying to say that she's playing a worse game than Dan. And it's just not true. It's what I said last week. It's just not true. Because, especially with us getting to see these eliminations and then all coming and saying, wow, they're shocked that Danielle's a traitor, it means her acting is working on the cast. We might, as viewers, see it as her being over the top, being maybe sloppy. But clearly for the cast, it is working. This past video was Bob H, who was eliminated. He was stunned that Danielle was a traitor. He did not see it at all. Wes then came out. He was also very surprised that Danielle was a traitor. Gave Danielle a lot of credit for playing a good game. So it makes me annoyed with the edit, I think, because she's getting this edit, which is kind of making it obvious, maybe, that she doesn't win. Because the edit is kind of, this is why Danielle didn't win. And I don't like that. Hopefully that's a swerve. Hopefully the edit is making it seem like this is why Danielle didn't win, because she was kind of messy and over the top, and then she ends up winning. I would love that. The cast is dumb enough for that to be the case and for her to actually win the game. As for Carolyn, she too is surprising people, but that's the obvious because Carolyn's so goofy. Carolyn, she's just all over the place that it's no surprise that she gets away with being a traitor because everybody expects her to be that way. She can play it off every time she's over the top because that's just her. Danielle isn't getting that same grace by the fans, including myself sometimes, because that's not what we expect of Danielle. Although Danielle she's always been a little messy. I think she's more sloppy this time compared to her games on Big Brother, but she's always been messy. But yeah, I'm not going to tear apart her game too much going forward. The show itself doesn't want to help her edit enough, but getting these videos of the aftermath of her edit is showing that she is actually doing a way better job than any of us are talking about. Okay, this was shorter than I wanted it to be, but it's really the only topics that I had. So unless anybody is here, I see a few people watching. I don't know if they're Traitors fans. I don't know if they're WWE fans, but Charlotte is the drizzling you know what. Okay, I agree with that assessment. Look, do I think Charlotte's like the worst? Of course not. I think Charlotte is great in the ring when she wants to be. I think she, as a heel, can sometimes have a good promo. But as a babyface, as a tweener, the promo last night on Raw proved she is not a good babyface. Never has been a good babyface. She couldn't come out and cut a promo. The audience immediately got to her, and she stumbled over it. So, in promo, sometimes I do agree she can be the drizzling shits. Clown City 99. I do agree with that. Okay. I will return Thursday for the Traitors and probably talk about wrestling again at some point. Maybe speaking of DXP, rest in peace days, but Tiziani, if you're watching this, another DXPer, I feel like it's Mercury retrograde and I'm having all these DXP feelings over this past week and talking to people I haven't talked to in a long time because of Day's unfortunate passing. But Tiziani, if you're watching this, maybe one day we can discuss wrestling because we were talking throughout the entire Royal Rumble about Jey Uso. I liked your post about him on Reddit going after some of these wrestling marks, talking about his moveset. So yeah. All right, I'm going.